We are 8 days into the 1,200-mile Idaho backcountry discovery route. We just finished the most remote road in Idaho, took a couple of left turns, and found ourselves night driving the second most remote road in Idaho. Today we finish that road called the Lolo Motorway and then start making our way towards Wallace, Idaho, where the largest forest fire in the history of the U.S. happened. We're deep in the trees, and we're going to have to cut our way out. The Lolo Trail is an ancient Nez Perce travel route used to cross the Bitterroot Mountains into Montana in order to trade and hunt buffalo. In 1805, Lewis and Clark, aided by Sacagawea, used this trail to traverse the most difficult section of their trek west. The trip took them 9 days. We needed to finish it this morning in order to rendezvous with my buddy Jake, who was planning to join us for the last leg of the trip. However, what we didn't know this morning was how many trees, fires, and mechanical issues were waiting for us on the trail. Good morning. What a night. Last night we spent a lot of the night driving. Today, we may or may not be meeting with our buddy Jake in Wallace. And when I say may or may not, it's because I'm not sure we can make it to Wallace today. I've already texted him on my Garmin InReach Mini to let him know that he may be staying in Wallace alone tonight. So
yeah, well, Wallace is famous for its brothels.
Yeah. So he won't be alone.
Sorry.
No, Jake. We know you won't be visiting those brothels.
Yeah, they've been closed for like decades. So
sorry, Jake, they're closed. So you can't. I'm really excited to see this Lolo Trail because the Lolo Trail is such an important piece of Western history. Mm-hmm. And this trail was the way in which Lewis and Clark got west through the Bitterroot Mountains, which we're going to pass today. And they needed the aid of the Native Americans that were here. Otherwise, they would not have made it. And I can imagine that Lewis and Clark party trudging along.
Yeah, I think trudging is the right word too.
Yeah, they were at the end of their journey and they were tired and it was cold. It was September when they were here.
Yeah, and there's like just a sign right here next to our camp about like an incident where some horses slid and a couple of them died, and so
they ate the horses.
So they ate the horse. Yeah,
that's where they were at. We have much better food, and we are much better supplied. And so, but we get to pretend for a second that we're Lewis and Clark. Yeah. I don't know which one you want to be. You want to be Lewis or Clark?
I want to be Clark.
Okay,
he was less crazy.
I'm a little more crazy. That makes sense. All right, let's hit the trail.
And by the way, we're having horse steaks for dinner tonight.
Ooh. Oh, that didn't sound good. Did you hear that?
Sounded like a Jeep.
Sounded like you have a tin can rattling around in your engine.
That is the engine.
You're such a jerk.
You ready, kids?
Ready, Dad.
Got it, Pop. All right, let's roll.
Rolling. So we're 14.7 miles into the Lolo, guys.
Only 100 more to go?
Yeah, I think 110. My Gaia Trip, whatever tracker says our average speed has just been like 6.7 miles an hour. Still faster than Lewis and Clark, though.
This morning, we immediately felt like the trail was rougher and less maintained than Magruder, and before long, we hit the first of many stops.
I feel like this section wasn't quite cleared for a full-size truck. Yeah, I think this tree's gonna need trimming.
I'll give you a hand.
We all brought the same DeWalt chainsaw with extra batteries just for such an occasion.
Ready?
Ready.
Ready. All right, rolling.
While Magruder was massive with a lot of burned areas, the Lolo looked pristine, even if the trail was rougher. The forests were thicker, which made it hard to see our surroundings, but every now and then we'd hit a ridge that gave us a $1 million view of the Bitterroots and beyond. We're just driving along and we found this adventure bike windshield. Somebody lost this, dang it. So we'll pick it up and see if we come by anybody missing a windshield.
Just an okay view.
Cool little view off to the left.
I'm still amazed at how much Idaho changes. After 8 days on the trail, I kept expecting things to start looking the same. But each vista we'd come across blew my mind, especially if you stop to think about how the trail originally came to pass and how we use it today. So many different people, different generations, different technologies have passed along this dirt trail, and it's so tied to how we settled the West, for better or worse. It's really hard not to get swept up in the history of it all.
Rob and I are at the Indian post office. Okay, I'm just about there. Hey, Willie.
So we're up on this ridge, and it has this expansive view of the mountains, the Bitterroot Mountains that we're crossing right now. And I can only imagine what Lewis and Clark were feeling and their party were feeling when they looked at those mountains and they thought, we have to get over those things? That's impossible. We're tired, it's cold, there's no way we're gonna make it. And it's this trail that they used to get across these mountains and stay alive and make it west. And the rest is history. But these views to us are awe-inspiring and majestic. But if I put myself in their shoes, it's pretty daunting and intimidating. The Indian Post Office, or maybe better called the smoking place by the Nez Perce or Namipu Native Americans, is a sacred site. The notion of post office comes from the belief that Native Americans could send messages or commune with healing spirits from this place. They would stop for a ceremonial smoke and receive inspiration and healing from the Creator. It definitely feels like a sacred spot. There's an old feeling to the trees and rocks, and I can understand why a person feels closer to the Creator here.
My trip computer said that we have gone 1,010 miles, which also looks like Lolo.
One of my biggest fears of overlanding is that one day seeing these views will seem redundant, like just one more mountain and one more forest I've seen a million times. While the Lolo didn't quench my thirst for incredible scenery, it did make it so I never want to see a downed tree again.
Road, while not difficult, is way more technical than I imagined.
Yeah, it's a lot worse shape than it was when I came through here last year. Tight squeeze, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. My back tire fell in.
The low-hanging tree. There was tight.
That was an 11 squeezing through there. Did you have to move anything?
No, but it's been really tight. I've had to drive over several things.
Can you imagine being first through this trail this year? You'd have to bring either a ton of batteries or a ton of gas. I think we're talking hundreds of trees. Yeah, I think that's probably a safe estimate. That tree looked like some sort of like Tim Burton monster trying to grab us. Need to cut, Rob?
Yeah, I think we're going to cut again.
Rob's got wood again.
Something that's turning into a little bit of a theme. Having to do a little trimming.
I do wonder, why they cut them so narrow. They weren't driving a Tundra or a Jeep. Yeah, they may have just been like on a side-by-side or something.
We're about halfway through the Lolo, and it's really slow going because there are a ton of downed trees. And while most of them aren't a problem for Chris and I in our Jeeps, Rob is just about 6 inches wider than we are, and there's a couple spots that have been pretty tight. And so I'm hopeful that we'll get through this section and get some open road that doesn't have quite so many obstacles in it.
Dust floating around in the forest almost makes it look like it has a magical mist, except that it's dry, dusty dust. I feel like I have sandpaper in my eyes right now. It looks like we're, two-thirds, three-quarters done here?
As excited as we were to drive the Lolo, we were ready for it to be over and ready for something easy. Unfortunately, that's not what we got. After the Lolo, we hit a few more blind corners that made us regroup a bit. Well, it's the evening. It's like 7:30, or maybe it's 6:30. It's 7:30 Mountain Time. And we made it through Lolo. It took, I'll do the math later, many hours. And we really want to get to camp. We had a great camp recommendation that we were going for, but the roads are closed. It happens out here because they're logging or construction or whatever. So we have to figure out an alternate route to get to where we were going because the BDR is actually closed down. So they have a detour here that we're going to follow. And we're going to try to make it to a campground that's near the Dworshak Reservoir Bridge. And I just hope that it's a good road. Hope we can still get there. I hope it doesn't take us too long because we're all so tired, so dirty. I think we just want to take showers and have dinner. And I just don't know when that's going to happen. The detour was significant, but the roads were okay, so we made decent time. However, a few miles from our campsite, we came across something that stopped us in our tracks. We're making our way down to the Granddad Bridge, and it looks like there's a fire that just started. Well, this is Idaho, and we know that there is snow season and fire season. And we knew we'd be threading the needle on this trip. We knew it. And now we're heading down into Dvorak Reservoir to camp for the night, and there is a forest fire that just started. It looks to be on the other side of the reservoir, but we have some decisions to make now. You know, this is part of living in Idaho's forest fires. Every year there's forest fires, and running the BDR is risky because you've got to time it just right or figure out what your detours are going to be. So we thought we timed it right. I think we're still really, really close, but we may have to go back to the map and see if there's a safer route.
I was just measuring the distance from us to the fire, and it's 5.7 miles.
As we got closer, we could tell the fire was on the other side of the reservoir. So we decided to take a reasonable risk and make our way to Granddad Bridge Campground, which sits on the edge of the water. So we made it to Granddad Campground, and it's not what we would normally do. We normally wouldn't stay in a campground. This really isn't even a campground. It's more of a boat launch. But we're on the Dvorak Reservoir, which is absolutely gorgeous. And so we're looking forward to just sitting down and looking at the water before going to bed. We don't typically like to camp around people, but there's nice folks here. So we're just gonna call it a day, start making dinner, and start washing up. To say we were tired is an understatement. The BDR had beat us down. But Chris decided to break out the Otzi grill, get a fire going, and make something that would take our minds off our fatigue. Turns out ribs cooked on an open flame have healing powers, and we went to bed that night feeling grateful for our little boat launch camping spot. We learned the difference between miserable and perfect is just a state of mind. We all slept in just a bit the next morning and woke up to the sounds of helicopters putting out the forest fire from the night before. Today would bring about more change, some we predicted and others that would surprise us, and not in a good way. Our goal was to make it to Avery, where we'd meet up with our buddy Jake from Seattle, who would join us for the last leg of the route. So we took a few moments to savor the morning before getting our minds invested in what we'd be tackling later in the day. Good morning from the beautiful Dvorak Reservoir. We were gonna get out the drones and kind of show you Rorschach Reservoir, which is phenomenally beautiful, but because there's a forest fire about 6 miles away, we're gonna be really, really careful about flying the drones because we don't want to interfere with any operations that are going on. I woke up this morning to the sound of helicopters, so we're gonna leave the drones on the ground for now. So today, we all would love to have an easy day. We've had 2 amazing but grueling days. Roughly it's 100 miles from here to Wallace. There's one pass that was snowed in like last week. We don't know what we're gonna get into. We don't think we're gonna get into snow, but we may have wet conditions. We may have trees down because of the snow, and maybe there hasn't been too much traffic through there. And so I cannot wait to get into those trees and find those stories and share them with you. So yesterday we ran into about 350 down trees, and neither of us changed into shoes. We kept our flip-flops on the whole time.
Yeah, so what's gonna happen is we're putting our shoes on, and we will not run into a single down tree today.
It's a good luck charm.
It is. It's also Murphy's Law.
Once we got going, we started ripping through the countryside. The roads were flat and fast, and we knew there was questionable terrain ahead, so we used every opportunity to make miles where we could. Rob's Tundra was made for this type of terrain, and with him in the lead, our Jeeps were having a hard time keeping up.
How far ahead, Robert?
You're not gonna catch me.
Let me just say this, that Tundra rips.
Will, you're on your own. Will, are you still with us?
Hey guys.
There you are.
Pretty.
The speed of our travel almost kept us from seeing the thickly forested mountains we were slicing through on our way to Avery. This was shaping up to be another incredible Idaho morning.
I don't know what birds they are, but they're cool.
I think they might be buzzards because of the way they're soaring.
I think it's pronounced buzzard.
We're about to turn off these nice, maintained flat roads and get into some, I think, a little bit more rough roads as we make this climb over the mountain. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that looks like. I have had enough downed trees for a trip, but we'll take what we can get and hopefully get into Avery to meet Jake, my buddy, who's joining us for the last leg of the trip for lunch. So we got a lunch date.
Serious stuff.
Yeah, it's been trampled by logging trucks, I bet. Oh, what time should I tell them to meet us there, do you think? Like 12:30 then?
Be aware that that's a very rough guess. Depends a lot on how well the trees have been cleared on this road.
I'm definitely saying Rob said it'll be exactly 2 hours. And if we're not there in 2 hours, it's definitely not.
That seems right.
As we got higher and deeper into the mountains, we were also getting closer to retracing Rob's footprints from his previous 2 attempts at the Idaho BDR. His last attempt at this pass was thwarted by heavy snow, winching, and some very uncomfortable circumstances.
This is the area where we finally gave up because of the snow. It was banked up all the way up to the trees on the right-hand side of the trail.
Well, knock on wood, it's very different today.
It is very different. There are a couple of patches of snow, but nothing on the trail yet. I don't know if you can imagine just how creepy it was here. Foggy, all the trees are dripping.
I remember watching that on your video, Rob, and thinking that just looks miserable. I didn't get that it was spooky, though. Yeah, you guys must have been just exhausted.
So this is the spot where I finally had enough of winching and turned around. I think this is the exact spot that we just camped in the middle of the trail. Like, we just went sideways so we were flat and set up camp.
It's really pleasant in here right now.
I'm pretty sure this tree on the right is one that I cleared 3 years ago.
As much fun as we were having reliving Rob's adventures, there was something else that started to get my attention, and it was coming from my Jeep.
Well, clicking, almost sounds like something dangling.
So we're on this bumpy trail, crossing over the pass. Haven't had much snow, which is great. Actually, the trail's in great shape, just a little rocky. I've noticed the sound.
Pretty good.
There's a weird squeaking, clicking. It's coming from under the rig. Not really sure. I guess it could be the drive shaft. I put a Rezepa joint in. That's it's a joint that is for lifted Jeeps because sometimes the drive shaft can fail if the angle's too severe. So I put that in a few months ago so this wouldn't happen, but I don't even know if that's it. So I'm gonna keep troubleshooting and try driving in 4-wheel drive and then 2-wheel drive and see if I still hear it and try to figure it out. I don't think I'm in any major danger. I don't think my Jeep's gonna break down. I think it's just gonna be annoying for a bit.
This is a good opportunity to gloat about Toyotas.
Absolutely. Every opportunity to gloat on Toyotas until your CV boot blows.
So the sound is getting worse. I'm pretty sure it's my drive shaft. It sounds like there's gravel in my drive shaft, but I'm hoping that this is not going to stop me from getting up to Canada.
Hey, well, I just noticed that it's already 12 o'clock, so I don't know if we're going to make that 12:30 rendezvous with Jake. I'm sending him the message now that we are running late. Mountain Pass is taking longer. Be there as soon as we can. Sorry for the delay. Over 1,100 miles of this trip. That's a lot of miles, man. Mostly in 4-wheel drive. And they're down. Oh, got a fawn up here. See it running right in front of you?
I'm going to stop here. Hopefully it finds a place to leave.
So bad, we're scaring the little guy down the road. Must be really lost.
Just trying to get past, and that's why every time I try to do that, it dash across in front of me.
Yeah, I saw that. That looks like a very new deer. Now, at least now it's leaving the road.
We were now 2 hours late for our rendezvous with Jake, so I pushed my Jeep as hard as I dared on the windy roads leading into town. I was feeling pessimistic for the first time on this trip, and doubt had crept into my mind. But before I can dwell on it too much, we approached the town of Avery, Idaho.
You ready to hold your breath?
So much dust in here.
Avery, Idaho is one of the few towns in this area that wasn't scorched by the Great Fire of 1910. Thanks to the quick action of the 25th Regiment or the Buffalo Soldiers, the town was saved.
Yeah, I think we're here. You guys, I'm gonna go look for a Gladiator with a smart cab on it.
Mentioned around Frontier State. You guys out there?
Yeah, Jake, we are. We're at the train in Avery. Where are you at?
I'm near the gas station, little market here in Avery.
Okay, I'm coming there. I'll see you in just a second.
You got the right idea. So we made it to Avery. I gotta tell you, this place is it's a blessed little spot. The St. Joe River is running through it. This whole area was burned. 3 million acres was burned back in 1910. All these trees that we see now have regrown since then. And the way some people survived was to get in the river while the firestorm passed overhead, or they would get in a train and get inside a tunnel and wait for the fire to pass. And so we're about to go see some iconic stretch of road. We might be in a few tunnels ourselves, and it'll be really, really fun to just kind of think about what it was like back then when this was happening, those towns that were mining towns and logging towns, and then this crazy, incredible fire that happened that actually kind of solidified the U.S. National Forest Service into what it is today. So obviously I'm excited about this. I can't wait. Avery is a place where the trees and tunnels tell a story of an early Idaho territory, where gold and silver brought miners and the forests brought the railroads. The mines produce more silver than any other part of the country, and the railroads have now been turned into roads that wind along the river and through the mountains. This area was flooded with outlaws, but gave birth to heroes, as we learn tomorrow. Tonight, we wanted to take it easy. We found a spot right on the river. The early evening shadows gave us a cool shade to set up camp while Jake got to know the guys, and we all celebrated being done early for once. So we're at camp now, and we're somewhere between Avery and Wallace. I really wanted to get to Wallace today, but we couldn't do it just because it was getting late in the day. We had some things that we needed to get done at camp today, and we found a spot on the river, which is probably like the most important thing. So tonight we're gonna sit around, maybe, I don't know, have a beer. We're gonna celebrate that Jake made it. We hooked up with Jake in Avery, and he's with us tonight, so we'll be wheeling with him tomorrow. Jake, you made it!
I made it. We missed our rendezvous yesterday by a couple hours, and we met up today. It was awesome.
You're driving your Gladiator with the smart cap.
I am.
How's that?
It's great. I love the smart cap. I'm actually sleeping in the back of the rig in the smart cap, so we'll see.
Very cool. I'm glad we connected. I'm glad you made it. Can't wait to hang out tomorrow.
Yep, I'm super glad.
Because I'm not going to hang out with you tonight. At all. We're definitely not going to have beers tonight.
Not at all.
So Jake, not only did you join us on the trail today, but you decided to make dinner. What do we got?
We've got some beef kebabs.
Oh.
And then we also have a really nice mix. It's Brussels sprouts, green lentils, butternut squash, cremini, mushrooms, tahini, turmeric, and some hazelnuts.
Let's eat that now.
Let's eat it now.
So I've decided all of this goodness that Jake cooked up should go into a tortilla before I eat it. And how great is this? The river flowing by, sitting here looking at the trees, having this delicious dinner. After 9 days, dozens of challenges, and over 1,000 miles on the trail together, we had become something more than just friends or travel companions. We were now partners on a journey. And the next 2 days would bring about the biggest challenges of the entire trip and put the outcome up for grabs. But in this moment, we stayed together in the present, toasted our adventure, and laughed at Rob's glowing wizarding staff he used to find his way back to the rig at night.
Night, Rob.
Good night, Gandalf. And I've had a series of epic failures.
Bye, Rob. We'll miss you.
That may be the sound of our last era.
We don't have time to lay down on the grass. We gotta get to Canada.